Hello and welcome to the next of our CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Dominic Sartorio, head of product marketing here at Denodo, and we're a provider of a data management platform that helps transform data into trustworthy insights and outcomes for all data-related initiatives, including AI. And so the topic of this interview is about trends in the data and analytics industry in the age of AI. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Faizan Javed. He is Senior Director of Data Science and Engineering at Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest healthcare providers in the country, to talk about the broader trends in data and analytics in the age of AI. So Faizan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dominic. Great to be here.
And what you said earlier does resonate with what I've seen as well. You may have migrated to cloud-native data infrastructure, you hired the talent, but then they're still frustrated because they may have data, but they're not sure what's the most relevant and accurate data. Is my AI app going to have access to it at the right time in order to operate most effectively? But what I've also seen is those AI scientists and developers, they feel that pain. But then at more senior levels in the organization, they'll ask the question, wait a minute, we just spent many years and a lot of budget modernizing to the cloud. What do you mean we're not ready for AI, right? So how would you optimally answer that question or that objection that might come from more senior leadership who writes the checks, but they may not be down in the trenches seeing the pain that their AI talent is going through?
Yeah, so this is where the strategy of short-term, long-term plans comes to play, right? Because we have to understand that at the data governance level, if you're building the data foundations, right, that may take some time, and at the external level, it's very hard to show the value, right? Because if you're building a data governance layer, it's tied to activating some of the AI applications. That's the path. It's just like how if you're gonna invest in cloud infrastructure, the end customer doesn't see that. The end customer sees the enablement, the path to production. Okay, this cloud infrastructure is going to enable some application that's going to be used by the customer, and that's where the value add is. So that's where some of the tension is. Like, how do we manage that, right? So this is where we have the strategy of short-term and long-term goals. Because as we're going through this journey from first generation to second generation, as most companies have been doing, can we show some short-term wins? Short-term wins can be as simple as showing some dashboards for insights, right? Hey, here's something that's coming out of the investment you're making. What we can't do is say that, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to focus on this back-end processes, which is important, but it's going to take me 1 or 2 years and you won't see any outcomes from this, right?
Right.
So, and in this age, as we all know, the AI industry is now very fast-paced, right? So we are seeing a lot of output. That's the reason why we are seeing so many models coming out, because people want to see some advances. And as a result, there are higher expectations from leaders and organizations that, hey, if I can see so many things coming out in the industry, these AI models and applications, and there's a new framework almost every other day, then the expectations have risen already. Right? Yeah. So the wrong strategy would be to go into a bunker and say, I'm going to spend the next 2 years building the data foundation. But instead, what we have to do is that, okay, what can I show externally to my customers and leaders? Right. And I think in terms of the application side, one path is to start with some dashboards and insights. As soon as you have the data governance and layer ready, we can do that with some basic tools, and then say that, okay, we can graduate from this to simpler and more advanced AI applications that can be incorporated into the applications, right, of the organization. Because we have to keep one thing in mind. As a customer, even for someone like me who is into AI, if I'm paying for an application or access to some service, I care about whether that service solves my problem. I don't want to hear about it's using the latest LLMs if it doesn't solve my problem, right? So that's the end goal.
Great, makes sense. So pretty consistent in this conversation we're having is any organization's AI strategy needs to be backed by a clear data strategy. And level one is simply, do you have data that adequately represents your organization's operations, and is it well governed and good quality? And then part of that is, do you have sufficient infrastructure in place, cloud or otherwise, that scales and can most effectively deliver that data. So, but that it can't be the case that executives need to wait a year or two before they see the benefits of all of that. So another key takeaway here is iteration, have a small win, show that great operational dashboard that may not have been possible before pretty quickly. And then you can iterate from there to the more transformative types of use cases. So is that a good summary, or would you add anything to that?
Yeah, just one thing that I want to add is that, especially when you are at a first generation company, right? When you're starting off,
right?
The leaders or the organization data org, data and AI org would also have to play the role of the showing the value of data, right?
Right.
So I think because in large organizations you may have to establish partnerships. So people won't just say, well, you know what, I'm going to hand over my budget just for you to build something with data and AI. What's the value and how can I form? So basically, how do we ensure that at most organizations that there is an understanding of the value of data and that these leaders, the data and AI leaders, can serve as champions of data? Hey, this is what I can do. This is the business problem I can solve with you, for you, with data and AI. So that link, those partnerships, those collaborations are going to be really, really important, because you might, at most companies, you might encounter people who may not be at the same level of understanding of AI and data, despite the media attention that we're getting in the space. So those partnerships are the underpinnings of this, right? Yes, we have talked about first generation infrastructure, tools, AI, talent, but if you don't have those collaborations, those partnerships to execute on them, then I think we won't get much success.
Now, that's a great insight. So every organization will now have an AI champion, but you also need a data champion in there somewhere to promote the value of data, to making the AI successful, and then can evangelize the value of that throughout the org. And yeah, we've seen that too with some of our customers. An AI strategy needs to be backed by a data strategy, and they each need their champions in order to be successful. So this has been a great discussion, and thank you again for your time and insights. Do you have any closing thoughts or comments that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to end on this fact that across the industry, the focus is on value, like how do we extract or how do we do the value impact of AI, right? So the focus is, I think, for all the data leaders, AI leaders, is can we drive impact? Can we have an impact in our business or downstream customers and so forth with AI? So I think, as we discussed 15, 20 years ago, the focus was on data, right? Now the expectation across industries, across organizations is on how fast can you drive value with AI. And I think that's where the focus should be, because if you don't do that, there's a risk of, like failure in, as you've seen, right, across the spectrum. So the focus has to be drive value with AI and taking into account all the work that has gone on in the previous years of establishing foundations, infrastructure, tooling, talent. So,
yeah, well said. So, thank you again, Faizan. This has been a great discussion, and I want to thank you again for your time and these great insights. So that essentially wraps us up. So, for more interviews and insights, please visit cdomagazine.tech. And for other interviews on this and related topics. And Faizan, thank you again.
Thank you, Dominic. It was great.
Thanks.